Hello, guys, and once again, Manchester is blue. That's the whole point of today's live. 1-0 is what Manchester United were at the end of the first half. Probably a lot of those Man City ultras were shocked, were surprised that it happened because remember, they have an excellent track record. The last time Manchester United lost after they had a 1-0 lead was in 2014, where Louis Van Gaal had just become the Manchester United coach, and Ryan Giggs was the assistant manager. It's been a long time since that time. I have with me Abel and a visitor, not a very good debut though for Vaishnav. We've got a Man United fan, a Man City fan with us. I'll start with you, Abel. 3-1, Phil Foden. It was a local lad for a long time till Haaland drove in the last nail in the coffin. But you'd have to say a clinical, not a very clinical performance, but definitely something that City will be proud of.
Yeah, firstly, it just feels like a norm, right? At this point of stage, like last 6 games where we've had 5 wins. But to be very honest, United got off to a very good start. I must admit that first 20 minutes of the game, they had the control of the game. It just felt like Ten Hag's tactics were working on point. The only way they could have won this game was to beat this line of City and play those counter attacks. It was never going to be a game where United was going to dominate with the ball, especially considering it was a away game for United. And on top of that, if you look at the recent form, right, with KDB back in the team as well, and with the kind of form which Rodri has shown in the last couple of games, I think it was only about time that you had to get those counter-attacking goals. But if you have to just talk about the Rashford goal, I mean, that was against the run of play, right? That was possibly one of the best goals Rashford has scored in his whole career, I'd like to mention. There are some really good goals Rashford has scored, but this is right on top of the chart. But it's unfortunate that this won't end up being a winning goal for him. But yeah, from there on, City had to rejig the tactics, especially come the second half. We just knew it. And even the first half, when Haaland went on to miss the first one, you saw chances coming after coming, and you knew when you're going to give those kind of chances to City, you're going to get one, two, or three. And it was just about time. I was just waiting for the first goal to go in. Once the first goal went in, that was a brilliant goal from Ford. And from there on, you knew it was City's game to lose. And it was really going to be one winner. And then second followed very soon. And in the other time, Haaland had to score, which he had missed.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much that's exactly how you sum up the game. I think they had a lot of chances. I mean, City initially felt like City were not being clinical with their passes because that's what Manchester United did as well, wasn't it, Vaishnav? With very, I mean, you have to say that in the first half, Eric Ten Hag's tactics were to be compact. We were speaking behind the scenes, and you did mention the word parking the bus. That's pretty much what they did, right? They were expecting to hit City on the counter, and it worked for teams like Brentford, and I think it worked for them in the past as well. The City has been slightly uneasy on counter, and we saw that happen today again. It was just brilliant first half for United, definitely.
So, like I said, never playing a game with attacking game was probably never in United's mind today's game because you're playing against City, you're
Yeah.
playing with like Abel said with De Bruyne back in form, and Helen scoring a 5 goal in the last game. It was never sort of an easy one, but like I said, first half they thought it was all figured out. Even the attack from Doku, so they specifically focused on wings with left wing Doku doing an amazing work. But again, the center was extremely compact. There was no much action in the box. If there were any action, it was totally cut off. Even Johnny Evans and uh, Rafael, both of them doing an excellent work. But then again, as I said, wings. The first half came out excellent, but second half, when the second half was starting and you see Pep out there, you get the idea he's cooking something because second half
Yeah.
started and the camera's right on Pep and he's kind of nervous. You don't mess with a nervous Pep, honestly. So second half, it was more focus. City focused more on getting the balls from center. Sternis and when it comes to even Silva, passing ball right to center. They didn't concentrate much on wings. And Foden's first goal must have reminded me of Bayern Munich's Ribery. They had a term. Robin and Ribery together, they were called the robbery. Foden's both goals came from both different sides in the similar way. His
Yeah.
first goal from the left wing, a cut, and then a beautiful screamer. So did Rashford did score a beautiful one, but I think the defense was not up to the mark. Even the substitution of Evans, replacing a 36-year-old player with a 19-year-old young man in a derby maybe that it costed. It costed them in the second half when also City did an excellent work by switching sides. The second half, you see, they
Yeah.
switched sides very well, and then they got the ball. The first half, they had it figured out. They had both. They had every attack to the wings. They didn't concentrate much on center. Wings made good crosses, and obviously with experienced players such as Evans and Rafael, you cannot score in very easily, even if it's Haaland himself. But second half, there was good switching of balls. They were attacked from both the wings, but to the center. So I think that played a major role. And another thing is United missed a lot of second balls. So once you get an attack, and your defensive midfield should be able to cover back your recovered ball, your second ball recovery of your second ball plays a much important role. Manchester United failed much in that. So once you don't recover your second ball after your defense, you lose the possession. And then City could easily every second ball that Manchester United lost was got back by City, and I think that's crucial because that helps you keep in possession of the game.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
yeah,
absolutely well put there. Yeah, I mean, you have to say that in many ways, able in that first half as well. If we break down that first, I mean, we always knew that City was going to get hit on the counter. That was pretty much the plan from the start, and that's where United tried to be resilient as well in defense, where they did not, where they kept staying in the yard. They kept very compact defense. They did give a lot of space to Jeremy Doku, but the idea was the moment he cuts in, either you allow him, make him cut in, and then you use your numbers in the box to not give him the ball anymore, or else if he tries to cross, you cut off any crosses that come in. And Johnny Evans, Onana, and I think Rafael Varane were the key ones. They use their height
Yeah.
advantage to really cover that. But you would have to say in the second half, as Vaishnav mentioned, switching of wings. Now all of a sudden the tactic goes completely off charts because you're giving space to one wing, but the moment the ball is being passed around, then all of a sudden your compactness comes under pressure.
Absolutely. I think one of the, though Manchester United tried to be compact as possible, but they just left a lot of space for Foden to operate on the right hand side for City. If you
Yeah.
look, Moses Foden, the way in which he was cruising through the right hand side, it just felt like Foden could really move the ball in the middle of the park to KDB and get the ball back. Those 1-2s which was played in the middle of the park, that really gave City that confidence. Yeah, there is an opening over here, and there's a lot of space for us to operate on the wings. But more than everything, I just felt even the goal, if you look, the one which came, right? It just came because I just felt Victor Lindelof was caught napping for a minute or two. I mean, he knew Foden was going to cut inside, and even there, they were not anticipating a shot. They were expecting Foden to move the ball up, move forward to someone like a Haaland who was just ahead of him, but that just not happened. They had to take that risk at the point of stage because they knew, they are now looking forward. City don't take long shots. If you have seen how City plays, City don't score screamers from outside the box. They like to get inside the box. They like to operate a lot more inside the box, and that's exactly you saw the plays. If you look the first half as well, City tried to put a lot of crosses in, as you mentioned. Doku's height did not really help City. That was one of the major fallback in that entire situation. But usually you had Julian Alvarez who used to make starts, and Julian Alvarez is much more good. If you look at the way in which Julian Alvarez won second balls in the entirety of the season, he's been excellent. Or him aerially is not the most strongest player, but he can manage himself. He can definitely manage himself. I won't say he's one-on-one against Varane. I don't know how far he'll go along, but he's better than Doku for sure at the end of the day. And the way in which once Foden receives the ball, one of the best ball carrier when it comes to world football at this point have to be Phil Foden. I mean, the way in which he carries the ball, that was just brilliant from Foden. I mean, even we were just talking behind the scenes as well how Foden has been a nemesis for United. I think more than Foden being a nemesis, I just feel Foden's form in this entirety of the season has been just whole another level. Last season, you saw Jack Grealish getting a lot more nod ahead of Foden. That really affected his confidence. This season, he's been the man. He's been entrusted by Pep that you're going to come out there and do a job for us every game. And the best part about Foden is he doesn't mind playing on either of the wings. If you look at Jack Grealish, he was entrusted on playing on the left-hand side, right? He was so not comfortable playing in the middle of the park or on the right-hand side. With Foden, he's so versatile. He can go in the middle of the park. He's so versatile. He's so fluid. And that really helps when you have Bernardo, Foden, and KDB who can play with fluidity. And that's exactly what City did in the second half. The fluidity factor, that really caught Ten Hag by surprise. As okay, now what do I do? Now KDB is trying to drift wide. Bernardo is trying to get in the middle of the park. Foden is trying to get in the middle of the park, and Haaland is trying to drop slightly. So that was what caught Ten Hag by surprise in the entirety of the game today.
Yeah, I mean that's absolutely well put there, Abel and Vaishnav. Let's break down the goals, right? Let's start with the first one that Rashford scored. It was a screamer for sure, but let's start from where it originated, and that was Andre Onana. Now, he was brought into the team by, Eric Ten Hag has already coached him before at Ajax. The idea was they needed a much better ball distribution from the goalkeeper. De Gea was not able to provide that because he was much more of a short stopper than a distribution based goalkeeper. And today, what we saw is what probably Eric Ten Hag envisioned when they brought him into the team. Onana played that long ball to right into the half of City where Bruno Fernandes he stopped it. He blocked Kyle Walker, if I'm not wrong, who it was, and then set the ball right up for Rashford. That was a screamer, wasn't it? So overall, you have to say that was exactly the plan because City had most of the possession at 74%, and it reads for bad reading now post 3-1, but back when that first goal happened didn't really seem to bother United as much, wasn't it, Vaishnav?
So thing is, like you said, Onana was on his top form today. Other than the other defensive lap, he pulled everything that he could under his sleeves. But the fact is, when you're playing against a team like Manchester City, you don't expect much of ball play and score goals, especially when you have
Yeah.
players like Stones and Bernard Silva, who can play up and down from there. They can run, they can play, they can cover the whole field. If you look at people like Bernard Silva's heat map, probably not today's game, but then the past games when they have tougher games, you can see they're all over the pitch. So they can play both defensively and attackingly. And with players like that in hand, you'd not carry much ball. So probably United's one of the biggest tactics up the sleeve today would probably have been counter attack or long balls and then scoring a few like this. So I would say that came out perfectly well with Bruno Fernandes supplying it, right on top, and Rashford taking a shot that did come out well. But then after that, I think City became much journal about what they were supposed to do. After that, you didn't see much lapses like that. There was a
Yeah.
proper marking. So, well, the first goal was on point, like I said. Onana, probably it started from there. It was just three passes, if you see. Onana to
Yeah.
Fernandes, and Fernandes just giving, an assist, and then right on the top corner. So, that was one of the most beautiful goals probably Rashford has ever scored in one of his career. I think the last one, which we can remember on the top of his head, probably was a dribble. He dribbled half the way from half a corner and then a cut from right wing, and single handedly scores one. After that, probably one of the most beautiful screamers out there. But yeah, that wasn't enough to keep United. That wasn't enough to save United for the day.
Yeah, Abel just talking about the same thing. You would have to say that, like Priyanka says, aside from that, that pass that he made to the very set the ball up for Rashford, you would have to say that Bruno Fernandes was not really ever in the game. And, throughout, you just felt like he was someone. So I think for City, they would have probably looked at Rashford and Bruno and felt these are the two people we need to block. Just like United would have looked at City, and of course, there are a lot of players, but of course, the
So,
main focus would be after, yeah,
as a matter of fact, even Casemiro didn't play much. So,
yeah,
players like Casemiro, that one of the problems when it comes to things like Casemiro is these guys let a lot of through balls in from center in the second half. You see, the defensive midfield of United today had a big lapse. You
yeah,
cannot left you cannot let such easy balls inside the second half. If you see if you know the Foden second goal, the through balls were much cut clear. There was no defense. They were not properly concentrated. They shattered the defense. So Casemiro was one such player who had to take care of the defensive midfield. Especially when I said about the second ball collection.
yeah.
So probably the defensive midfield didn't come up to the mark.
Yeah, but what do you reckon about that as well? You reckon that, I think Kobe Manu did a very, very good job. I think till he was there, he just seemed like he was everywhere for a long time. But then both McTominay and, Casemiro, like Vaishnav mentioned, I think the idea also, when you look at the lineup, was that, Scotty McTominay and Casemiro will help basically back Johnny Evans and Rafael Varane. And they did that well in the first half, or at least to a large extent, they did it well. But then once that substitution for Kobe Menu came in, just felt like City overpowered them a lot more easily.
I agree to an extent, but if you have to look at the game plan of United as well, whenever United tries to play a game where they sit back, you don't really see Bruno coming with a load of good games in that particular scenario. Just go back all the games of United where they've sat back. where have you really seen Bruno go up front? Bruno likes to be given the opportunity to move more up the field. He is a player who likes to operate more on the final third. You can't expect him to be so good on counter. Firstly, he's not your Rashfords, or he can't be, for that matter, even I'd say, Hoyland for that matter. He's so different when it comes to a game where they're going to sit back and play. He's not defensively very strong. He's still a player who's work in progress when it comes to his defensive acumen. And that's what I personally felt. It's unfair to just put all the blame on Bruno Fernandes for this particular game, but particularly Casemiro, because I felt somewhere down the line, you just let those passes so fluidly operate, through the final third with Casemiro being in the middle of the park. Okay, understandable that Johnny Evans had a job when it comes to marking, Haaland, and even making sure Doku doesn't come in the middle of the park. But when it comes to Casemiro, he just let those passes go through a lot of times. You just saw that, even for that matter, though he did some really good interceptions in the middle of the park. One of the instances was when Rodri tried to make this through ball. He just made a beautiful interception that could have possibly gone to Haaland's leg, and anything could have happened. That at that point of stage, the game was 1-0 up for United. At that point, Casemiro was on top of the game. But I think after that first goal, I just felt like the entirety of the confidence which United had when it comes to the back line, they started doubting themselves. Then what they tried to do was they started pushing more back, and it just looked like United were trailing after they conceded that first goal. Until then, United was still okay. They just had that confidence. Okay, we are still up in the league. But after that first goal, though they were on level pegging, they just lost that confidence from their confidence that they are giving a lot more space to operate, because they just start doubting themselves, right? Because the ball just went through in the middle of the park as to how Foden just came in and created that small ample of space which he had. So that's exactly the doubt which Casemiro also had, because then what Casemiro started doing is, he started being more, the aggressive route which he took, the fearless route which he took initially, where he started to be more, he started going more up the field when it comes to taking the ball down from Rodri or not letting Rodri operate. That really went down. Then he started moving more, defensively to a position where he was not trying to make those challenges. He was just letting the ball come to him. That was not a good thing, especially if you're with City. And if you're gonna build a wall around there, if you're gonna let City operate in the final third, you're just moments away from a couple of goals. And that's exactly what happened. That's exactly how the game was played out.
Yeah, I
See,
mean, just talk about I think that kind of brings me to the first goal itself, right? Where first goal for City, that is where basically Phil Foden came from the right. Yeah, I mean, he basically came from that from the wing position, tried to cut in, and the idea I think initially from Lindelof was to push him into the pitch where probably Johnny Evans, Casemiro, and Kobe Menu would have basically lured him into a trap and then put in those numbers. But then the moment Lindelof did that, you did not see Johnny Evans, Casemiro, or Kobe Menu really in the picture. They were all staying behind. That's where the first goal came in, where Foden got the space to really score that golazo. Now, do you
so
reckon,
I
Vaishnav,
think,
that
yeah,
they
so
were a
that's where
little
I
slow in
think
execution?
the mastermind of probably Pep and Foden goes together, because in the first half, when any cut was made through the wings, there was a supply of ground ball. No one took a shot out there. And
Yeah,
the only that I think a few in the first half, probably a few attempts were made by Doku again, but that was clearly stopped. But when you see in the one thing about the defensive wingers, so that's the left back and right back, Lindelof and Darrod, both of them were beat very easily today. Now
yeah,
you may have a compact defense, but then you cannot have a left back, and you cannot have your defense wingers beat so easily. Even in the first half, that happened. But the only good thing was there was no supply to Holland at the end of the day. The supply to Holland was cut off, and I think rightly, like Abel pointed out, that's one point where Casemiro and McTominay probably came into picture and they cut off. Even the ground ball supply stopped. But then second half, they let that happen. The after one goal came up, they focus more on attack. But in a team where Silva and De Bruyne is playing, you have Stones and you have such quality players who can carry the ball. You do not make such an defensive mistake just outside the box. I think there was one free kick too. Uh, that was like probably not De Bruyne's best day today, but if it was any other
yeah,
day, that would have rightly went inside. So that was something that did not happen in the first half. And second half, both the wingers being beat so easily, that gave them space. Now, the fact that Foden may not have given out such easy, may not have taken shots in the first half, never let him, never would have stopped him to take in the second half. So even if I'm not wrong, even the first half they did have really good opportunity to take shots outside the box from the wingers. But anyway, that didn't happen in the first half for some reason. But second half, that came out really good. Just
Yeah.
like I said, probably reminded me of a Ribri. Ribri was one person who could take such excellent shots. So yeah.
I mean, let's talk about Rashford as well, right? In this whole game. Now, I know he scored that goal right up at the front. That's where the game completely shifted towards United side. It took a long time for City to, get their bearings right and then start scoring and start using their possession. But then there was a lot more chances. Now, there was a one chance, I mean, I don't remember the minute exactly, but it was not that far off after that first goal came where he was almost through on goal with Kyle Walker chasing behind him. Attempts to head the ball down, trying to score what Messi tried to do. I think he discovered not everyone is Messi when that ball kind of went out of control. But you reckon he should have just chested the ball instead of trying to head the ball down because that would have pushed the ball further away from Kyle Walker because there was a lot of space. And that was the kind of moment where goalkeepers are now thinking whether should I go forward, attack him, or should I stay back and maybe cover my goal. It just seems like at this point in time, Rashford just absolutely made. I mean, to be very frank, Rashford should not have used his head too much there.
I mean, to
Uh,
be very honest, I thought that was an offside call, which was given by referee as well, right at the end of the day. If I remember, that was, if I'm not wrong, after that play, offside was called on Rashford as well. So it doesn't really make any difference once it's called as an offside. But I thought more than Rashford, I personally felt Rashford needed a support on the other end. He just felt like he was a lone man up front. He did not have any, as would you like to mention, no Hoyland means United just feels that there's a big void up front. Hoyland is
Yeah.
just getting into the groove.
I mean,
He was being that
if you
scoring
would
man for
rather have
United in the last few
preferred
games.
a Bruno Fernandes to play false nine and then maybe put Rashford in the wing
Could have,
because he just
could have,
seems
but
so
then
much more
but could have,
in the
but
wing.
that was not the tactics in which Ten Hag wanted to approach today's game with.
Yeah.
He wanted to have a lot more defensive outlets out there. He just wanted Rashford to be that lone man, believing that he could go out there and do a job. And they personally did not want to win out of this game. If they get a win, they were very happy. But it just looked like they were very happy to settle with a draw. And when you go in with
Yeah.
such mindsets to play away to City or to any other game, they're not going to do well because now it's two back-to-back losses for United after managing to get a string of wins. To lose against Fulham and to City is not really going well for them. But this could have easily been, they would have been contesting for top four, but now dropping off the cliff at the last moment. I mean, this
Yeah.
could be very tricky last few games for United because Ten Hag will know that it's yet another season wasted. I don't know what he's going to come up with an excuse. Obviously, his job sounds secure as of now, but I like to say one thing about football: things can change very quickly. If you're not going to deliver in these big games and these big derbies, you're going to be under so much more of a scrutiny. Because what's going to happen is, yeah, you can say that I played a 19-year-old defender today. I played Omar Forson today. I
so
played Willie Kamwala. I mean,
I
these kind of things can be
So I
brought
have
in, but
to
at the end
ask
of
you
the
guys
day,
this question. Yeah, I'll ask you guys both this question. Now, today was a 100 game of Eric Ten Hag. Now, I'll tell you something very interesting that I came across. Eric Ten Hag has a better win loss ratio than even Alex Ferguson in his first. He's the best United manager in terms of win loss ratio in this first 100 games. Now, he's gotten a win loss ratio of 60%, Alex Ferguson 59. But you feel like both of you, do you feel that because there is Alex Ferguson sized gaping hole in the Man City, I mean Man United fans, and the kind of shoes that you have to fill as a United manager now? Do you feel that's the reason why so much pressure is on him? Because you have
Jaren,
to say that kind of Alex Ferguson era, that team and this team are nowhere near. I mean, Alex Ferguson era, Abel would not have sat here and said that United were just looking for a draw. There was
yeah.
never Alex Ferguson's mindset. But that's where United is today, isn't it, Vaishnav? I'll start with you, then
So
I can go to you.
when it comes to Ten Hag, I feel the quality of signing do matter. Now,
Hmm.
if I'm right, Sir Alex Ferguson just took 2 holidays in his whole career. One was for his daughter's wedding, and other was to bring Dea to Man
Yeah,
United.
yeah, absolutely. Well, I've heard of
So
the same. Yeah.
now the fact is, Ten Hag did not get such quality players. As a matter of fact, when he came in, he bought a few of them right from his ex. Well, let's see, a few of them turned out to be good signings. A few of them turned out to be utter flop. Now, in the long run, he might have, maybe some unequal ratio as compared to Alex Ferguson as well. But fact is, what would happen in a long run? Now, there are the kind of signings that's happening in other clubs. Those are big. At least even the small signings are showing something. Now, as a matter of fact, Ten Hag, his signings, some are out of injury, some are not on the field. Many of his players are not performing out well. So, win loss ratio, okay, it does make sense. But as a Manchester United fan, again, I'm concerned about the future because the same kind of players will not put a quality game in the longer run. Now, if he goes to the same team with, he did go the Champions League. You know what kind of results are going to come up, or to what extent can they push?
Yeah, I agree. I agree, but I just want to
Yeah.
add a point over here. I think more than the stats, it is just the way in which this team is playing football.
Playing
You know,
football.
some days you feel they are all passionate, and other days you just feel like they're not playing for the badge, and that's been the biggest issue. Let it be Rashford, right? Rashford himself, I think, deserves to be let off the club. I mean, he just scores these wonder goals once in a while. He gets these accolades, but what has he done? Let's be very honest. Except the last season where he went on to have dream 10, 12 games, and that he has not really had great time at United at all. I mean, he's still pushing hard to get his contract extended. He earns what, close to 350K a week. And if you're not going to be the main man for United to take up the responsibility at the age of 25, 26, then when are you going to take up the responsibility? I mean, you still are not a youngster anymore. He's just getting the leeway. And at the end of the day, I personally feel Rashford has to go. And you have to sell him off. That's the only way. Because he's not giving you. I mean, obviously, he'll give you a goal, one goal once in a while. And he even put it up in the press conference that don't question my commitment towards United. I mean, I just want to ask him that what is your commitment towards United? What have you really done in the last 7 years at United? Or it's been 9 years rather at United.
Yeah.
What have you really done? I mean, you have had a couple of really good patches, then you're off. You're like once in 5 year wonder. That's the kind of player Rashford has been, personally speaking. And there are better players. I mean, uh, talking about signings, I don't think at this point Ten Hag can get that as an excuse as well. Let's just talk about Aston Villa, right? We're just on top of United, who's on fourth position at this point. If you want to just put man on man on paper, I'd just say Aston Villa are comparatively weaker than United, but they still push on, right? I just feel somewhere, you can blame on personnel. I can say that Onana has made mistakes initially in the season. You can go on to say that Varane not being fit, or for the matter Martinez getting ruled out, has not really worked well for them. But cumulatively speaking, as a squad, except the youngsters who have come out of the academy, I've not seen passion from anyone else. Club captain Bruno Fernandes himself has been not dealing in a way of how a captain should be leading the team. Let's talk about Kobe Minu, as you mentioned. Now, Kobe Minu has been exceptional in this season. Hoyland has been exceptional this season. Garnacho has been really good this season. These three lads is an exception to this team, who are a bunch of dead votes in my opinion. Just take them out, this team collapses. And if you want to see some of the best wins you've had, it's all because of these three youngsters. If not for them, they would have been ninth position or 10th position at this point of stage.
Yeah, I mean, we have to talk about the signings as well because there are reports about how Manchester United lost out on some of the best players that are. I mean, if you look at the players right now, they had a
Then I
chance
want
to
to add that
sign.
nobody wants to come to United. Ronaldo
Yeah,
exposed it a couple of seasons ago. I think
absolutely.
even
I think ever since
recently.
that,
It's
yeah.
so I remember this. I remembered, the trend that's followed. Every manager comes in, okay, when they come in, these guys are really happy for a few, for certain period of time, and then eventually they get the blame to the managers that the manager is not doing well, and they want the manager sacked, and the manager is out. A new person comes in, and I think just before Jose Mourinho or something like that, this has been a trend that's been followed. I think
So, I
Jose
mean,
Mourinho
Rachel, do
time
you reckon that players are given a lot more power in the dressing room compared to a lot of
Exactly.
other
Players
clubs?
are given a lot more power. There is no development when it comes to sports science.
and
When in
we
Manchester
have never
United,
had. I feel we have never had a proper coach. See, in a club like you bringing, so personally, me being though a Manchester United fan, I was never supportive of the fact that Ten Hag was signed for Manchester United as the coach. He dealt with Ajax. He played with youngsters. Now, this is not the kind of players that Manchester United would sign in because this is English Premier League. And then the quality
yeah,
of players here out there. See, Manchester United is a team that signed Cristiano Ronaldo himself. Now, let's put about the fact. Let's check the debate part about it. But they could. Bring in Cristiano Ronaldo. Now, is Cristiano Ronaldo a player who can be managed by someone like Ten Hag? Does he have the legacy to manage someone like Cristiano Ronaldo? Now, this comes to a question. Now, a club like Manchester United, who seems to be in the top four of the table, cannot have just an other manager.
Yeah.
Probably, if I was given the option right now and choose a manager, probably I'd go for Southgate. He could maybe pull up something.
That's a bad idea, bro. But trust me.
No, I'm just
But
not in terms of maybe
I
the
don't think
tactics.
Southgate is a big manager. For me personally, the biggest mistake which United did was to fire Jose Mourinho at that stage.
Jose
Because when
Mourinho,
Absolutely,
Jose
yeah,
wanted to
absolutely.
establish
Because
something,
I
the
mean,
players
I'll
came
just
in
add
between.
to what I was saying, Abel. I mean, remember how I mentioned Eric Ten Hag's numbers? Guess who's third on that list in the 100? First 100 games being the highest. Win loss ratio is Jose Mourinho.
Then, to be very honest, I don't care about the stats because stats
Of
don't tell
course,
you all the
sure,
stories, right? In
yeah.
this particular record, how many managers have won proper trophies? I mean, Ferguson has, and Mourinho has won them UEL. I mean, that's the only two major trophies they won in the last 1.5 decade, right? Other than that, they have nothing else to show. Okay, Carabao Cup last season was phenomenal, great. First season hype for him, great. Kudos to him. That was a break of jinx for them. But other than that, I've not seen anything substantial from Ten Hag to say this is a philosophy he's following. This is a way United would want to play. At least you see glimpses from any particular manager, anyone who takes over. When Xavi took over Barcelona, you saw the way in which Barcelona wanted to play. They're more confident with the ball. They're more confident in playing the ball around. All for them, and let's leave anybody around. Okay, let's just talk about when Jose Mourinho took up Manchester United. They were playing boring football. According to Rio Ferdinand, according to club legends, this is not the United way of playing football. But so what? You were getting results. I think finishing
But my
second
question
in title
now,
races was not a
I think
bad deal.
the
And
question
Abel, I
now is,
think
and the
when it
question
comes
you
to
guys are asking as well, is this also the brand of football that United used to play? I mean, if
There's
no,
these
no
never.
numbers
brand
hold
of
up
So
to
I
football
still
right now.
remember.
That's the biggest issue.
yeah,
I still remember, even when Jose Mourinho was, managing the team, they had some late minute scorers. They had like actual last minute goals. Now the thing is, they didn't give up in the 75th minute or 80th minute or just after they scored one goal. So I just remember,
yeah.
I don't remember the exact game, but then Jose Mourinho in full passion takes the whole water, the holder of can and he throws it on the ground and he shouts. So there was a passion in the club. The players wanted to play. Now, right now, if you
Let's go
analyze,
back to the derby, right, Vaishnav? I mean, when Jose Mourinho came to Etihad and defeated United with Pogba scoring, Pogba Martial, I don't remember who scored in 2017-18. I mean, that's when I was like, okay, wait a minute, this is tough United to beat. It was a tough nut to crack. They had a lot more in that team. I mean, it was personnel who were trying to step up for the team and from the demand of the manager. At this point, I don't know. Ten Hag is trying to be a strong boss, but it's not working well for him and for the club. Maybe at the end of the season they'll have to reflect. I mean, maybe he might get one more season, maybe 1.5 more season. If he's unable to deliver by January next year, I think then his job is under serious scanner. Because remember, I
so
don't think with this form they're going to make it to the Champions League. And even if they make it to the UEL, you're going to be under so much because UEL now, at
they
this
want to
point
get
of
so
stage
much
is
of
a very
trouble.
tough competition.
Yeah, I think ever
So
since the start of the Conference League, UEL is not as easy as it used to be. It's just become a lot more tougher. I mean, you've got serious teams in there now.
yeah, they're good enough to defeat any Champions League teams. Let's be honest,
Yeah.
and that's one of the reasons why UEL is a very strong competition. I mean, let's not take anything for granted for that competition. So I don't think that's aspirations for Ten Hag in the second seasons, right? In his first season, he delivered a top four, and second season you're going down to a top seven. That is not exactly what you want from a manager. I mean, that means it was a first season blues of you've done well, and it's just the hype, a soda bottle effect, as you would like to say. So everything looks good in the first season. All of a sudden, you fall behind, and then you can't blame the players. You can't blame
So honestly,
uh,
it's just one loss that it takes for the team to collapse these days. When it comes to United,
exactly.
I've seen that from a long time. You have a good run, and then it's just one game that takes, and then you're in a stream of losses, or probably draws. Not making
Yeah,
anything out of it. You're losing to one of the teams that's probably in 10th, 11th, or 12th in the position.
yeah, I agree. I thought the game against Fulham was definitely a deflating effect on this game because if they were winning against Fulham at home, at least coming into this game, they would have come with confidence. But losing to Fulham in the last dying stage of the game, that too, your former player, you will be coming in and scoring, nothing is working well for you then. Then you're going to come into this game a lot more deflated. That's been the case with United. United has never come to a Manchester derby losing and going on to win. They've always come confident. They've done well in these Manchester derbies. But if you look at the Premier League point of view, I think for United, I think I'll just display the table to see how things
Yeah,
stand,
I mean, just going to
because
move into the table. Yeah. I
because
mean,
then
while you
you
start
know.
about the table, now at this point in time, United are sixth,
Sixth in the
just
table.
outside, what do you say, the European qualification. Tottenham with 50, they have 6 points gap between the two. I think that's going to hurt a lot. That just and Tottenham haven't looked all that bad. You would have to say at this point in time, United are a lot more worried after this match. I think they go ahead to play. I think they have a difficult set of fixtures as well coming up. So that just makes things that much more
Hmm.
tougher, isn't it, Vaishnav?
So the fact, so that's one important thing. The bench strength and the quality of bench that Manchester United has is extremely questionable, because you see from last season, the bench, the only substitutes that has proved are the academy players.
Hmm.
So when other clubs have actual signings in the bench, now when I say the actual signings in the bench, I'm not speaking about world superstars, quality players. Now United seems to be having players whose quality in itself was questionable. So the best example would be when Amrat came today and gave in one goal for no reason. Dude was substituted to actually let give one goal. So
Yeah.
even as a Manchester United fan, you're not really happy about these things, because you bring in a
Yeah.
substitute and he loses the ball right outside the box. Now that's not something you actually expect from one of the most trusted players out there.
Yeah, I agree.
So,
I
and
agree.
then you bring in these substitutes, and the only substitutes that are, playing in are the academy players. Now, it's well and good. It's well and good until Grancho and all these players, put up a good show. But is it a club like Manchester United, you're the best substitutes you got are the academic players? That questions a lot.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's as simple as that. You can't
Yeah.
compete. If you look at the top four, let's just talk about Liverpool, City, Arsenal, right? Or let's leave Aston Villa out of this whole debate. Let's just talk about Liverpool, City, and Arsenal. They
Liverpool,
are the
City, and
ones in the
Arsenal.
title race. I still think Aston Villa, if they really push, some luck goes in their favor, they can also come in. But if you look at their team, the biggest difference is the players who come off the bench. Now you saw how Liverpool won the Carabao Cup with those academy lads on the pitch, and they are the superstars on the bench. That sight was the definition of what a manager and what the team is all about. If you interest on academy boys to win you a seriously good trophy, then that means that's how good you are. That's where you stand. And on the other end of the spectrum, if you look at City, for example, today, you saw who was coming in, right? You're calling in a World Cup winner to
World Cup
substitute
winner.
a Doku. A Julian Alvarez who's won possibly everything he has touched. I mean, that guy
Yeah, I
is
mean,
coming in. It's possible one
Yeah,
of the
played
best.
that,
pretty well
yeah.
in the league.
So that was extremely surprising for me, because this dude, I mean, Ten Hag substitutes in Evans and brings in Kamala, a 19-year-old kid, while the substitution on the other side is happening as a World Cup winner. Now in a derby, that's surprising. In such a huge
Exactly.
match, that's extremely
That was the game
surprising.
for me. That really showed where two clubs stand at this point. I mean, no disrespect, but United and
Yeah,
City in the
yeah,
last 5 years have never been on equal footing. As I mentioned, the Jose Mourinho era was the only time where I felt as a City fan, okay, I got to be wary of this particular United team because they're going to pull up something. It was very frustrating to play, right? And Pep hates frustrating managers. If you look at one of the reasons why he used to go and lose in Tottenham very often was he hated playing as Pochettino's frustrations. He hated playing those frustrating games when Tuchel used to pull out again with Chelsea. But if you're going
Yeah.
to let Pep with opportunities, then Pep is going to tear you apart. You don't give.
So I
You
think
have to frustrate Pep to win against
I
you.
think Ten
If you're
Hag
not letting
tried
that
that
happen, that's
today.
it.
I think Ten Hag
Yeah, he
tried
did
that today
today.
with parking the bus, but it failed extremely. So what the first half of today's game reminded me of a Porto under Mourinho. That is the exact a UCL. The Champions League Porto under Mourinho kind of played a similar football. Because they knew at the end of the day we are Porto and we are going against big shots. So they never went in for a probably a tiki taka or a position ball game, because they know they would lose position. But what they did, they concentrated more on counter attacks, long balls, and every single chance that could be taken in. But so the first half of United certainly reminded me of that one game.
Yeah.
I think one of Rashford's miss. It looked like a half volley for me. I don't remember how it went. It was just after the first one. It looked like a half volley.
Yeah.
He missed it out then, and then probably a stunt he pulled by faking a dive
Yeah, I
into
mean,
the.
I was going to talk about that as well. Yeah. I mean,
That
let's
was
just talk about that in particular. Yeah, I mean, it just felt like again. I think that led to a goal on the other side as well, and then that's where the first goal came in, and that's one
so
aspect I forgot about
Rashford.
as well. Where he could
Ra-
have gone further. It would have probably been a harsher challenge from Kyle Walker because Kyle Walker was getting, at that point in time of the game, Kyle Walker was being absolutely frustrated by Marcus Rashford and his advances. He scored that first goal. Kyle Walker was again there, couldn't really keep the ball away from Bruno Fernandes, allowed him to pass. Second time, just felt like Kyle Walker's frustration because just a while back, Kyle Walker had done a similar foul where he was where a free kick was awarded to Manchester United.
Manchester United. Yeah.
Now
Well, if you
he
look at
fell
that foul,
over
Jaren, I
thinking
mean,
the
I'll
ref
just
is going
add
to
there
provide
that
one.
particular foul, right? When Marcus Rashford was the last man through. I mean, if
Yeah,
he would have at least tried to make a run out there, I mean, he would have gotten that foul. And what he tried to do was
yeah,
he tried to go down. That's never a good deal.
exactly.
I think it was a couple of games ago. I think it was Chelsea, it was Brentford last evening where I was watching. It was a very similar challenge. Nowadays, in Premier League, referees don't give you such fouls until unless there is a proper contact where you are trying. If you are trying to go down, if there is any if a referee is going to get any hints that okay you're trying to go down by yourself, then you're not going to get that foul. You can
And
I
debate
think
about it however
Rashford
you want.
yeah.
and Rashford is a ball carrying player. He's got the pace, he's got the control. So probably that's one place where he should have dribbled a little more forward. He could have carried the ball a little more forward because he's got it. Now, if you're talking about someone who's not got the pace, it makes sense. Or someone who's not done this before, it makes sense. Now, again, like I said, if my memory is correct, one of the most beautiful Rashford ever scored was one he carried right from the court of the middle court to up there till the D box, and he single-handedly scored it. So a player with such capability, maybe, like I said, that was one place where Manchester United could have scored a second one, or maybe eventually went to a penalty, but then missed it out.
Absolutely.
An early dive, but if I checked it out, it was just a hand contact. There was no push, there was no pull. So tough luck.
Yeah, I think we have summed up the game beautifully. I mean, we've
Yeah.
spoken about both the sides.
I think that's pretty much it now. Obviously, just looking at the table once before we end it, there were three different shades of red today, hoping that United would win. I mean, aside from the United fans, Liverpool and Arsenal would have hoped, that United just pulls this off because that would have helped Arsenal close the gap with Man City. I mean, obviously they have played one more game, but they would have hoped, that at least Man City is just a bit pegged back. But that means now this
Jaren,
obviously
I
means Man
think
City
at
got
this point the title decider is next Sunday.
Next
City
Sunday,
Liverpool.
yeah, it's
City
City
Yeah,
against
versus
it is.
Liverpool.
It is. It is that game. I mean, it is a game of
and
the
it's
season.
happening at
Yeah.
Anfield, right?
It's happening in Anfield. It's not going to be easy for
That,
City.
never going to be easy for City. Trust me, it's
It's
happening
not
at
going to be
Anfield.
easy. It's going to be one tough challenge. But if City wins that, I don't think anybody's going to stop City from there. Then it's
Yeah.
Yeah, I
City's
mean,
title. That's what's
both
going to
Liverpool and
happen.
Arsenal would have hoped, that Man City just a bit messes up. Liverpool now would be feeling like their Man City is once again breathing down on their necks. Jurgen Klopp, final season, would have hoped, all the Liverpool ultras would have hoped that maybe a bit more gap, maybe 59-63, maybe we make it 66-59, but now it has to be 66 and
Six,
62. That's what Liverpool
six.
will be hoping for.
If even if it's a draw
But
next week, right? If it ends up being 64-63, I still
yeah,
think it's going to be very, very. The pressure is going to be on Liverpool more than City because they know they can't
absolutely.
mess up. Because City has done this time and time again, right? They've gone on runs
Yeah.
and they've really gotten on
I
past
mean,
Liverpool by 1 point couple of times. So they know the
since
pressure is on. Exactly what
2014.
happened with Arsenal last season. They knew
Yeah.
they were the ones who had the lead and it was upon them to mess it up.
Yeah.
When you have such
Yeah.
pressure and when
And
you're a team
it
who are
also,
not used to doing that, then you're in serious trouble.
the game also makes sense because both the teams have established managers. It's not someone who
Yeah.
new came in a season or two before.
It's
Both
the
of them
last
know
time they're
their
going to be
team.
up against each other. So this is
Yeah,
classic.
City
This is going to
and
be a classic.
they built a legacy for themselves for since a time. If I'm right, Pep himself built Manchester City. The same happened with Liverpool. Whatever name they got was himself Klopp coming in and building up a name. So it'll be interesting to watch at the end of the day.
I mean,
Yeah, it was
yeah,
pretty much. I think this era of Pep and Jurgen Klopp has been pretty much like Alex Ferguson and Arsene Wenger from the
Arsenal,
previous
yeah,
era.
exactly.
So I think that this is. Let's hope for a fitting end to that legacy. But I think this is pretty much it from us for today. The 120th match between these two giants of football. One giant slightly smaller turning into a David for today's match, but you'd have to say really hope as a football fan that United makes a comeback. But that's pretty much it. Thank you, Vaishnav. Thank you, Abel, for joining us. Before we leave, though, make sure you check out Boom 11 app on Apple Play Store and Google Play. I mean, on Apple App Store and Google Play Store, rather. And please do check out the premium contest because, lot more to win there. And if you are a little bit more risk averse, if you want to play Eric Ten Hag kind of football, you can still play, what do you say, the kind of, you can still play the free contest that we have. Remember, guys, you might not lose like Eric Ten Hag did. That's all that Boomer 11 can offer you. Thank you guys for joining us once again. We'll be back. A lot